So I've been seeing a lot of talking online about the Blade Runner 2 sequel and how people think that it should never have a sequel, and the first movie, it's perfect how it is. Normally I would agree and say that I don't think Blade Runner needs a sequel, and any sequel that people can make now would just tank the series, but this sequel is in seriously great hands right now. Denis Villeneuve is signed on as the director, and Roger Deakins has already signed on as the director of photography. If you don't know what this means for the film, or if you still have doubts, just stick around and I'll explain. Now, this director has made many great films in the past that dealt with some very dark source material, just like Blade Runner does. Prisoners, Enemy, all of these movies had themes that are very in common with the themes in Blade Runner. If you watch this interview, you will see that the director definitely is a huge fan of Blade Runner. Even though he does say that he likes the first cut of the film, I still think that he's a genuine fan because he does like the last cut of the film as well, and the way he talks about the film, you can just tell that he cares about the source material. He considers this film to be a huge weight on his shoulders as well because he's got so many fans that he's trying to appease with this film while also trying to bring in new viewers, because the sequel is supposed to be its own separate thing. It's going to be tied into the original film in some ways. It has Harrison Ford in the cast for sure, but we're not exactly sure how deeply the plot interconnects with the first film. After everything that I've read and seen about this film, I have no doubt in my mind that it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing and fantastic, and it's probably even going to be my favorite movie of all time if he can pull it off. I think that the problem this director has had so far is that he just hasn't had a complete standout script yet, and if he thinks that this film is supposedly as standout as it is, I can't wait to see what he can do with it. Now, I'll always trust the director's words more than I trust the actor's words, but Harrison Ford has also said that he thinks it's the best script he's ever read. I've known this for a few weeks now, and it's definitely made me more excited for the film, but there's actually more to be excited about than just this. Roger Deakins has only been the director of photography for one other science fiction film, and he's always wanted to return to do another science fiction film, so this is definitely going to be a passion project for him. And I'm not talking about that terrible movie with Justin Timberlake. His last name is Timberlake because his acting is so wooden. So that's exciting. Now, I just hope a lot of people aren't expecting this movie to be almost exactly like the first Blade Runner. Like, it's not going to look the same, that's for sure, and it's definitely not going to have the same actors in it, except Harrison Ford. And the story may be completely different. In the interview, Denis Villeneuve even said that he definitely is going to respect the source material, but it's still going to be his own film. Now, according to the IMDb page, Ryan Gosling is also supposed to be acting in this movie. Now, I didn't have a lot of respect for Ryan Gosling before I saw Drive, which became instantly my second favorite film of all time. It just nails everything I love in movies. I still wasn't thoroughly convinced of his acting skills until I saw The Place Beyond the Pines, and then I saw his movie that he directed, Lost River, which also was phenomenal. He didn't act in that movie, but you can definitely see that he knows a lot about movies through his directorial skills. When given the right kind of character and role to play, I think he can do a fantastic job, and he was given just the right character to play in films like Drive and The Place Beyond the Pines, so hopefully if his character is in line with those two films, then it's going to be perfect. The only thing I haven't really heard any talk about for this film is the soundtrack. The soundtrack was hugely important to the atmosphere of the first film, and it definitely helped put you into an entirely ethereal world of androids and sad Harrison Ford. I really hope they can get Vangelis to come back and do the soundtrack again, but this guy's getting so old that I don't see that as a possibility. The soundtrack for that film was so one of a kind that I don't think anyone out there can match it or come close. But I'm still not too worried about this because Denis Villeneuve is a master at getting atmosphere in his films by any means necessary, so I'm sure the soundtrack will be good, but it might not be on the same level as the original soundtrack. He went on to say that he also hates director's cuts and putting deleted scenes on Blu-rays because to him, whenever he makes a film, the final version of the film that he creates is his director's cut, and if he cuts a scene, he feels that there's an entirely important need for it. He's not like most directors who will only do what the studios tell them to do, and sometimes the studios force people to keep in scenes, sometimes they force them to take scenes out, but this guy is pretty much an auteur, and he will do whatever he wants to do to make his film what he thinks is the best. Overall, I really don't think that there's any reason to not be excited for this film. When I first heard that this movie had a sequel announced, I kind of rolled my eyes and thought, why? But after seeing who everyone who's attached to it and what they feel about it, I've started to think, why not? Anyway, if you weren't excited before, you should be now, and if you're not a fan of the first film, then go watch it, because it's amazing. I'm eventually going to make a video where I talk about it and maybe analyze some of it, but it's definitely my favorite film of all time, so if that means anything to you, you should go check it out. Just don't watch any version of it but the final cut, no matter what. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.